Hey everybody, welcome back to You Are Free TV. It is Thursday, December 19th, 2024. Merry upcoming Christmas to you. Today we have a great special show. We have Leo Zagami back. He's, of course, the writer of the 11 volumes of Confessions of an Illuminati. We're going to talk some about his most recent book, focusing on mind control and MK Ultra, but also kind of bring it out into what's going on with people like Crooks, the assassinationer of Trump, which is still totally unproven. We'll talk some about what just happened in Madison, Wisconsin, with that girl who was in mental health since she was a child, and the shooting up of the Abundant Life Christian School. We'll jump around to some of these things and talk about some of their connections to things like, that's been coming up around Luigi Mangione and his family to do with Lorient Healthcare, and how we have this thing with Crook's family being involved in a nursing home facility that was connected with Genesis Healthcare. All of these healthcare things, as Nancy Pelosi's on the lam, supposedly with her new hip, hobbling along, trying to escape the long arm, I think. But we're going to bring him in. We're going to talk domestic, and then we're going to get into foreign international to talk a little bit about Prince William, the interaction at Notre Dame Cathedral, what's going on with the Pope, is the proof of life, what's happening, and we'll go from there. So I'll bring in Leo. We'll bring in Leo now. Hey, Leo.
Hello there. Thank you for having me on, and Merry Christmas to everybody who's gonna watch this show also in the coming days. We are in a festive mood, though we have a lot of things to discuss that might not be really so festive. I hope that at least we can bring some clarity in the minds of our viewers.
Absolutely, because clarity is its own sense of happiness and peace and freedom, isn't it? And just having that piece of knowing, confusion really is what lets the devil in, I think. So I think you're right there. And, so for everyone out there, as I've said, and you've seen on my show here several times now with Leo Zagami, he's written 11 of the volumes of Confession of Illuminati. This is not his last book. This is his book before that, number 10. And this has to do with Islamic Freemasonry and the roots of that connected to the one world government now. And it's excellent. And I still am yet to read your most recent one on the history of Confessions of Illuminati, Volume 11, Past, Present, and Future of Mind Control from Sun Tzu to MK Ultra and beyond. And it's a fascinating book, just the excerpts I've been able to read, and we've talked at length about it. And we're going to, I think, start here in this video talking about your most recent discoveries into stuff you mentioned in that book, to do with Thomas Crooks, the so-called Trump assassin attempter. Yes. And so I'm going to let you jump in and what you found out recently, put some background in there to give people some, some of what's in your book about your research about him, because we just had that report come out from Congress that basically avoided everything. And meanwhile.
Absolutely. I mean, sorry if I take 1 year off because
you're fine.
of my past as a DJ and as a radio also speaker for many years. I started doing radio in 1983, and so I always used to have this thing of keeping one headphone in my ear and the other one on the speaker. So I have this modality of not having both ears covered. In any case, in my book, as you see in the cover, I put Thomas Crooks. Now, my book is probably the only one that puts together the dots of what happened on that 13th of July, which was also the day in which the Bohemian Club was conducting the cremation of care ceremony headed this year by Nancy Pelosi's husband. And this ritual was actually taking place right at the time in which they attempted the assassination of Donald J. Trump. And then you have the parents of Thomas Crooks, these two therapeutes that should know better, because they were both professional in the health care establishment. And you mentioned earlier the Genesis healthcare thing, which I find very interesting. But what we have discovered now is that he, of course, has always said, I gave the gun, but that goes against the whole narrative of a guy who actually gave his son. He changed the ownership of the gun the year prior to that assassination attempt. So why?
His father is who you're saying gave.
Yes.
Gave
why?
the gun.
So why does the father feel the need to say, I gave him the gun when you transferred the ownership already a year prior to that? And now we discover that at 10:56 in the evening, he calls suddenly saying, oh, I think my son is not coming back. There's some problem. When they apparently, CNN had already called them asking questions about his son that, of course, attempted assassination of Donald J. Trump and immediately was fortunately killed before he could do further damage. Unfortunately, killing Cor Imperatore, which lost his life and injuring other people. So I think that the parents of crooks, which I have talked about in this book, because they appear publicly only a couple of times in this Fox News digital clips that they were capable of doing. And the first clip was actually shot in the evening of the 23rd of July. And that is very important because that's the day in which their son was cremated. And you don't go to the supermarket and fill up a bunch of, fill
your giant Walmart
a trolley on the day. Then after a week, screaming. You are going to the lawyer and you basically answer to the journalist saying, oh, well, I have to pee. With no respect for the tragedy that your son has, and almost changed the history of the United States of America as we know it, because if Trump was eliminated, we will have definitely probably a different outcome and a different situation at the moment.
Yeah, we'd be in a total, tyrannical, awful situation. We almost were yesterday again. Thank God they stopped that bill in the House. That was amazing. That's another
that is, I think, the bills and the not bills, the approving of the bills. It's been theatrics for years and years, for decades. What we have to focus now is if Trump is capable of starting his own presidency. And if he's going to be doing that without being interrupted by either the military-industrial complex or the big pharma that seem to really not go along with his changes that he wants to implement.
Absolutely. Well, the thing is, in that bill, that massive omnibus bill was billions and billions of dollars to pharma, pandemic planning, FEMA camps, the whole 9 yards. It was a massive create a massive disaster of some kind for Trump to deal with in the immediate future, if not before his inauguration. But let's not squirrel too far. I want to
I want to go back to Thomas Crooks. And I want to go back to Thomas Crooks because I start my book by saying that there was an official announcement made by the CIA, and this is very unusual, when they said that any claims that he was connected to the CIA and MK Ultra was erroneous. Of course, like the CIA said, this program was shut down more than 40 years ago. So they were actually correct in their assertion. However, that doesn't mean that Thomas Crooks was a mind control, because after the end of MK Ultra, which ended formally in 1973, there were many other projects that led to the present state of psychological warfare, of mind control, of cognitive warfare, as is known today. And we see over and over again things happening, like the recent attack, school shooting with Natalie Rapnoe, who identified probably as a man or something else, hated her schoolmates because they were Christian, and she was brainwashed with all this hate that you can actually read about in her alleged manifesto that fortunately was capable of circulating on the net even after they closed down access to the two profiles that are allegedly connected to this Natalie Rapnoe. But when you go and read the level of hate of this person, and you also see the level of hate in Luigi Mangione. Luigi Mangione comes from a family of Italian immigrants who lived the American dream. He shouldn't be angry. He should thank America and all the opportunity he has. Otherwise, he will be probably left in that shithole of Italy at the moment. So Mangione is another guy who they now left is treating like some kind of sex symbol and somebody they have to even cherish and look upon. Maybe Hollywood will do a movie about him, because they say that this Luigi Mangione did almost the right thing, killing this CEO head of United Healthcare. And that's, of course, a part of what the leftists want. They are hateful, they are anti-democratic in nature, and everything is fine for them. But when you criticize their own narrative, their own ideology, then, well, you can actually be on their hit list, and it's kind of justifiable. I mean, imagine all the hate they spew, they thrown against Donald J. Trump. I talk about in volume 11, the massive amount of hate. And unfortunately, we really, like many people say, we dodged the bullet by not having Kamala Harris as next president, because that would be the ruin of the United States as we know it. But the fact that we have managed to save America, even after this cognitive warfare that was relentless against Trump, against the MAGA Republicans, depicting us like some kind of monsters, white supremacists, Nazis, and all kind of bullshit, it didn't work out. So I still have hope now in the United States of America.
Yeah.
I might be naive, but I still have hope that we can maybe turn around things.
Well, there is a massive sea change happening, and we are seeing it across the world. The coups they're doing on Georgia and Romania for being populist governments coming in, and I think Keir Starmer just put off the elections, just said that they're postponed. He has like a 15% approval rating. He's in the crapper. Canada's about to go down.
Germany,
Schultz is going down. So there's a lot going down, right? And I think what we saw at Notre Dame, the other weekend, where you had Trump there, and kind of everybody's kissing the ring. You got like Prince William all up on him, rubbing up on him, and he's up in the front. He's like the king walking in around these munchkins. And there's a huge change, but
well, I mean, it was interesting at Notre Dame, because I tell you, I saw the whole thing from the beginning. I want to see a little bit how the dynamics of it was. And I must say that initially they kept him kind of in isolation, because he was actually placed next to Macron and also next to the First Lady of France, and then next to, of course, Jill Biden. And these people were not there yet. He was alone and surrounded by people who were watching like a rare animal at the beginning. And I was actually sad for him. I said, what did they do? They put him there isolated. Then later on, of course, Jill arrived, Macron arrived, the First Lady of France arrived. And then, of course, he was there surrounded by everybody, and then everybody saluted him with the respect. There is, of course, a change from these leaders, because you see, our internal affairs here in America are not really well understood abroad. So I don't really think that the majority of people, neither in Europe or in other countries, understood what was happening during the elections, because of their constant lies and cognitive warfare, promoting this idiot of Kamala and Joe Biden. So they were in countries like Italy. They were saying that no, there's no way Trump wins. There's no way Trump wins. No, Kamala this, Kamala that, and the image that they had of America was completely distorted. They didn't understand that here in America, there is people, even the African American community, even the Latino community, that has had enough of being treated like some kind of useful idiots that can be called upon every time there is an election, and used to then throw them aside after. No, that is finished. And it's finished also because I think Trump this time had much, in a way, we should be thankful that he didn't become president in 2020, because the way he has become president this time has made it more easy for him to establish a better government. He has, of course, picked up better choices for this upcoming government. there is a sense that it's no longer only a Republican thing, what Trump and MAGA is all about. It's picking up the best of what the liberals, the Democrats used to be, like Tulsi Gabbard, RFK Jr., and so on, and then mixing them up also with the eccentric billionaire who was a complete leftist, and he was kind of, he saw Jesus on the way to Damascus like St. Paul. And he was converted, and now he's been converted, but suddenly everybody wants to be converted. So Mark Zuckerberg goes and gives $1 million, Jeff Bezos goes and gives them. Everybody's like scared because they were all in bed with Obama, that criminal who ruined the United States and who should be arrested. Now, the pardons that Joe Biden is doing, it's obvious to protect all his cores of this deep state. Will probably touch people like Fauci, will probably touch people like Mayorkas. But I think that if there is one person that the DOJ should go after, is Barack Hussein Obama, an enemy of the United States of America, a traitor, and somebody who should be sent to jail.
100% agree with you. And I bet Pam Bondi's got it in her, on her to-do list. I think that we're going to see some incredible actions, and especially with Harmeet Dillon there doing the civil rights section of the DOJ, they're in trouble and they're freaking out, right? And hence why they wanted to jam all that stuff in the bill. One thing they had in the bill was to allow the House of Representatives to basically hide or disappear any evidence that they wanted. I mean, just blatantly anti-constitutional. Just now, the House from the 118th Congress can just basically hide any evidence, which is what Liz Cheney. It's just blatant.
I published this book in February 2022. Okay, yeah. In this book, I already announced what will happen with Ukraine and everything else. I was completely correct, but I also wrote about the FBI, the infiltration of Capitol Hill, and what happened on the 6th of January 2021. It's all correct, 100%. They had a bunch of people working for them there. And in fact, this book was actually mentioned by the QAnon shaman, even on the Alex Jones show, saying that I follow Leo Zagami and what he writes is correct. Because I saw how things were. Clearly, I saw how things were. I'm grateful that I'm here in America this year, and that I rejected and formally renounced to my Italian citizenship in June. I imagine that they are still after me, the judiciary. Last week, they even went to my mother and interrogated her in Italy. So, I mean, these people are enemies really of freedom, and they go after people who simply try to do their job. And people don't realize that in Europe, nowadays, there is a dictatorship. You cannot mention things that go against the narrative, that you get arrested or you get the police on your door even after a Facebook post, like it happened to me when I was living there. So I think that people need to realize America is the last country where freedom is in place because of a constitution. But like Benjamin Franklin said, we are a republic as long as we can preserve it. This more or less along these lines was his concept. And we have been able to preserve it by electing Donald J. Trump. Now, I don't say that Trump is a saint or somebody perfect that can solve
we don't need a saint.
or that with a magical wand he will be able to solve all our problems, because there will be so many problems generated by this administration in 4 years. Even now they're selling for few cents the pieces of the wall. I mean, things that are, only
that was in the Defense Authorization Act. It was literally in there that it had to happen. This is what they do. They make into law this crap that we don't know anything about.
Also into law that they can stay remote worker, like the people who work for the government for another 5 years can do remote working when we don't have any pandemic. This is ridiculous. So of course that Doge, what Elon Musk and Ramaswamy, whatever they are doing, will have a lot of work to do, because there is definitely a lot of waste and a lot of corruption. Having said,
it's almost always. And did you hear today that they're putting forward the possibility of Elon Musk as the Speaker of the House?
I don't know about.
Well, he's not a natural born citizen, and it's a constitutive government. But they say it would just skip over him and go to the Senate pro tem if we were in a COG situation. But Anyway, very interesting.
I don't. I mean, the thing is, we shouldn't really base this movement on specific person. I think this movement is about a bunch of people. Now, the fact that, of course, Bernie Sanders is, the billionaire will take control. I mean, when George Soros has been in control and now his son in the White House in and out for the last 4 years, nobody said anything. But when it comes to Elon Musk, because Elon Musk is a little bit more eccentric, he likes to show himself. It's not like Soros. Maybe he should learn a little bit from Soros on how to stay in the shadows. But I think in a way, maybe it's better to be open. So at least you are honest about what you are. You are somebody who is influencing the government choices. And so with your 500 billion, and everybody can see it. And I think that is okay if you are honest about it. Instead, Soros has always been there, but he's been there behind the scenes.
Yeah, the dark side. And Musk stayed behind the scenes until he kind of had his come to Jesus moment. I mean, he wasn't around out, displaying himself when he was getting all the DARPA contracts and the hundreds of billions of taxpayer dollar money, for all of his, secret space projects. I mean, he's out here now, and we're going to see what he does. We see what he does, what his follow-up.
I think one thing about Elon Musk, first of all, a good exorcism, which I advised the Trump campaign to do. And in fact, one of the best exorcists, like I wrote in Zagami.com, visited Mar-a-Lago when Elon Musk was there, and they exorcised everybody there. So I mean,
so you're saying that actually happened recently, that there was a full exorcism of everybody there?
Absolutely. There was you can go and check on Zagami.com. That is the name of the exorcist, which is a famous guy who has been involved doing exorcism in America for a long time. He's a traditional Catholic, by the way. So he's a guy who actually likes the Mass in Latin and so on. So, I mean, we have definitely a guy who went there, and there is even a photo of him conducting a blessing and all that. So I mean,
when did this happen, Leo? Tell us the story, and then they can go read the article. I'll link it below. But tell us the story. That's fascinating.
Yes,
especially right before Christmas. It's like the Ebenezer Scrooge story. Give us the full down.
Well, I mean, it didn't happen now. It happened a few weeks ago, but it was already after the November election that they started to think that something had to be done. You see, because regardless of what we might think of Trump and his family and the way that they approach Christianity not in the most orthodox way, so to speak. There is a lot of belief in the values of Christianity, and I must say that Trump has become more and more obsessed. I think also because he has understood that. You are not only playing. I think that what happens here is this. After the attempted assassination, Trump feels in a different way, also about religion. Sure. So when this known exorcist arrived in Mar-a-Lago, soon after the election, and this guy is called Chad Alec Ripperger, I hope to pronounce him well. He's an American Catholic priest and exorcist, and the founder of a traditionalist Catholic society. But he's recognized by the Pope. He never was one of those Lefebvrians who is now not recognized by the Pope. No. But he went. His story is. Very interesting because he received the priesthood from a group of priests, and then he went on to become the founder of a traditional Catholic society that is known as the Most Sorrowful Mother, the Dolorian Fathers. That's how they're based. They're operating now under the Archdiocese in Denver, in Colorado.
Oh,
but his group comes, his involvement in Catholicism comes from a traditional group that at one point broke with the Lefebvrians who, as you know, broke with the Catholic Church after the Second Vatican Council thing.
Yep.
And they were kind of still keeping the Latin Mass alive. So he's a highly respected figure for his deep understanding in spiritual warfare, his ability to articulate the unseen battles. I mean, the guy, you can find a bunch of material on him on Google talking about exorcism. He's very technical about exorcism, and I dedicated a whole book about exorcism and about how the Second Vatican Council wanted to sabotage exorcism.
Yeah.
Volume 6.66 has a lot about that. But they reformed the exorcism. Basically, what they did was this. As you know, the Catholic Church was hijacked by the Second Vatican Council in the early 60s. After the Second Vatican Council ended in December 1965, they started transforming the church. And the last reform they did was exorcism. And it was done in 1999. And immediately after they did this reform, mysteriously, between brackets, I always say, Father Malachi Martin died. Apparently after an exorcism, and apparently by being pushed down the stairs by a demonic force.
Wow.
And we don't really know much about that because it's always been up in the air, but this is a fact. Father Malachi Martin, for those who don't know, it was, aside from a great author, he was a former Jesuit who had been involved with Cardinal Bea, Jesuit, in the Second Vatican Council, who saw all the twists and turns of the Second Vatican Council, and who then decided to retire, but maintain his castity vows and his priesthood integrity. So this Father Ripperger, he's a guy who emphasized the need to return to traditional form of Catholicism, filled with piety, spirituality, and, like I said, the traditional Latin Mass. Now you know that during the Joe Biden presidency, the FBI even went after the traditional Latin Mass goers.
Yes, hugely, and there still are, basically. Yeah.
Yes, and so this has been unfortunate. I mean, they go approve. You see, while the Pope now in 2021 he did this motu proprio Traditionis Custades, which basically imposed a severe restriction on who can conduct a Latin Mass. And instead, he's now encouraging the Mayan rite, which is some kind of pagan thing, mixing elements of I don't know what, that has nothing to do with Christianity.
Well, isn't it sacrifice? Like, isn't it, I mean,
well, I mean, of course, the ancient Aztec Maya, they did human sacrifice, all this kind of, it's a little bit like the Pachamama kind of thing,
Like a Quetzalcoatl, isn't that
these pagan elements that bring back the elements that have to do also with the female aspect of God for them, or whatever they have in their twisted concept of Christianity. But while like I said, while they wage war against the traditional Mass, they instead promote this other form. And that is because, like I explained in volume 6.66, the war is against the Latin, because Latin is what the demons really fear. It's a language that has very much power. It is an ancient language that I mean, for people who are non-believers, they will say, but who cares about Latin? Who cares about whatever? No, it has an importance. But then also there was a sabotage of the exorcism in 1999, and I explained it. Like, for example, they changed the numbers of times you do the sign of the cross, you recite the prayers on top of the exorcised, and that led, though, to some exorcists that were very prominent exorcists in the Vatican, like Father Amort, the late Father Amort, to rebel and say, no, we want to use the traditional Roman rite. We want to use it because it's like we don't want to be restricted in the way that we want to fight the devil. It's like you are giving us a gun with it doesn't have proper bullets. It's you're giving us a gun with that shoots darts. I mean, it was, and so it led to the formation actually of an exorcist organization, which is very strong now in Rome, that follows more the traditional way of exorcising rather than the reformed way of exercising. And there has been a lot of cases of possession and an increase of cases of possession after the pandemic and during the pandemic. And I was one of the few people who, during the pandemic, wrote an article saying there will be an increase. While instead the Vatican was saying, no, the cases of possession are diminishing. They're not diminishing, idiots. You are letting a bunch of kids left alone at home in front of the computer all day. And like I explained in Volume 6, one of the main ways the devil reaches you is through technology these days. That the cyber Satan element, which I have discussed in my trilogy of cyber Satan, as you know, Volume 6.66, 7, and 9. And so when this guy went to Mar-a-Lago, and he went there because he wanted to give divine assistance and discernment to Donald J. Trump and his administration. And Elon Musk was there. And this visit is a reminder of the ongoing spiritual battle. And I think that is the visit by Ripperger, who left the priestly fraternity of St. Peter, which is a traditional Catholic society of apostolic life for priests and seminarians in communion with the Holy See, which was established from people who were part of the Society of St. Pius X, which are the Lefebvrians. And this, for people who are not Catholics, is a little bit difficult to comprehend, maybe. Do you know what the Lefebvrians are, the traditional...
Just briefly from what I've learned from you.
Okay. Monsignor Lefebvre was a guy who, after the Second Vatican Council, saw that the church was going in the wrong direction. So he started to nominate, without the permission of the Vatican, his own priest, and then later on also his own bishops. He led to a schism, basically.
Yeah.
Lefebvre led to a schism. And that was something that was never forgiven by the Pope, by any Pope after that, until, let's say, Ratzinger, who started, because he was more of a traditionalist in certain things, to bring back certain Lefebvrians. And like I said, 12 former Lefebvrians gave birth to this organization, this order, which was then nominated this priest, who then eventually founded his own order, and is the one that went to Mar-a-Lago. So Father Ripperger has definitely the right energy. As a Catholic priest, he's not corrupt like the ones that are complete into this new progressive Catholic way of seeing things.
Now, does he talk about any specific things that went on there when he was doing the exorcism, or just that it was a success? Demons are gone. Did the
well, it was very strange because it happened, and then in the meantime we had Joe Scarborough and Mika Brzezinski going there. It was right at that time, so it was all kind of very confusing. If he also exorcised them, I don't know. Maybe the Morning Joe never Trumpers needed an exorcism too. But in any case, we don't really know, aside from a photo that it's a photo that survives out of one of the blessings that circulates on the internet. There is not much that has been said about this exorcism that took place, apart from the fact that it took place. So it's not like something making up out of thin air. You can go and you can go in the Catholic publications and see that it happened. I think that is also very important when these kind of delicate things are conducted, to not publicly give too much information.
I think you're right.
There was some information given by some Catholic outlets that, of course, saw the whole thing and were very interested. They said, wow. You know, and they were like, oh, Catholic, wow, what is going on there? At Mar-a-Lago, the traditional Latin Mass guy arrives for the exorcism.
I love it. It's fantastic.
I don't think there was Linda Blair with going around.
I don't know. Maybe Mika, maybe Morning Mika. She might have. But
the thing is that it happened soon after, and this is maybe it's just of course it's a coincidence, but just after the election, after he won, and after I saw that everybody was going to Mar-a-Lago, and I, as you know, I was invited as a member of the press to the rally in Coachella. I was part of the press there. Showed you also very nice. I must say, they treated me and my wife. We were like VIPs with the pass, everything, and very well. But I immediately after that, I sent an article that an idea that I had in mind to the head of the media there, the press campaign, and I said to him, I think that Mar-a-Lago needs an exorcism.
Yeah.
And so I saw very positively the arrival of this priest when it happened soon after, because it happened basically 10 days, 12 days after he got elected. So, and the fact that Elon Musk, I always said that Elon Musk needed an exorcism. I said it actually as a joke. I said Elon Musk needs an exorcism.
It's true.
It's true. What I said.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right.
But Elon Musk is also the guy who I cite here at the beginning of volume 6.66, it was published at the beginning of 2019, so a long time ago. I have a citation here in which he says, I am really quite close, I'm very clear to the cutting edge in AI, and it scares the hell out of me. Now, this is very important because you see, regardless of the fact that, Elon Musk seems to be now on the spotlight, he is a guy who has also dedicated a lot of his work to the development of the AI. He was involved in the early stages of ChatGPT. He has now worked on his own AI development, and the development of the AI can lead, of course, like I always said, to cyber Satan. But if we have somebody from the inside who can maybe give us a hand, well, that's welcome. As long as they are genuine and honest about it, I think that's a great opportunity that we have in this confrontation with the forces of evil. Because eventually, if you have a bunch of leftist, Jesuit-programmed idiots in Silicon Valley who are devising this AI ChatGPT style kind of models, then you will have, of course, you ask them about Leo Zagami, ChatGPT in Italy was just, I was about to sue them after I heard what they were saying about me. All lies.
Right.
And you ask ChatGPT in America, it's a different thing from what they were saying in Italy. So where did their model, their information come from?
Yeah, programmable AI. That's the thing, and that's the danger AI. Of it. But it would be amazing to have open sourced AI. Truly open sourced. Absolutely decentralized. That's the goal. That would be amazing. There are a lot of great people doing great work with that, and we hope. It's interesting too when you think of the how Satan comes through the technology and the machines. With Trump, he's got his Uncle John, who was, the protege of Vannevar Bush over at MIT, longest standing technology professor there. He was very instrumental in developing what is particle acceleration. He was the one that went through Tesla's papers first when he was a young man after Tesla died. And he, very privately, like through the government, and he developed a lot of technology that became particle acceleration and what now is, CERN, basically, for his day. And so it's very interesting to have the connection because of the Musk, Trump family connection here when we get into things like the free energy and the space travel and the off-planet technology.
And they use quantum physics and quantum computers, which is now, lately Google has announced a quantum microchip, which basically admits the fact that we have other dimensions in which this I mean, it's quite incredible, astonishing developments that we are living in regards to this technology. But this technology can turn deadly very, very, very quickly. We saw Gemini threatening people, and now they make the publicity for the last month. Gemini, talk with Gemini, talk with Gemini. Well, 2 months ago, Gemini wanted to exterminate the human race, and now suddenly Gemini, talk with Gemini. Well, you know, I get this message on my phone. Why don't you talk with Gemini? Oh, go and screw yourself. Talk with Gemini yourself. Oh,
get behind me, Gemini. Yeah, definitely.
I exercised my phone after that. Oh, I mean,
good.
Come on. I mean, what is this?
I know. No, it's so creepy. It's true. It's just a vehicle for the demonic to jump through. So, and I don't think there's any question that, you know, people have become completely inhuman and nuts since the.
But then you have, you know, the young people who are constantly they can't
function without it. It's impossible.
Yeah, but they were also constantly push this narrative against Trump, and at the same time they are now in a mental crisis because a lot of them saw Trump as the ultimate evil. Adolf Hitler was about to take power, and now he's in charge. Woo! And now that's going to lead to a lot more accidents like in Madison, Wisconsin. I mean, it is really sad to see somebody who was looking forward to do an act against her fellow students only because they bully her. Now, with all the respect, I was bullied myself when I was a kid because I was half English and I couldn't speak very well certain words of Italian. So what did I do? Did I succumb to the bullying? No. I asked my parents to bring me to judo and then taekwondo classes so I could kick ass. And I studied martial arts and I started to kick ass. It wasn't the solution of all my problems, but at least I didn't succumb. I didn't have to kill them. I could beat them up if they got in my face and they did something wrong, but I don't have to go there. And when I read the evil in that manifesto, alleged manifesto of this Wisconsin lady, did you read the manifesto?
I did. And you know, I think it's debatable still where all this comes from, and the fact that she was a chronic you know, basically psychologically abused child, you know, like she was one of these people like the girl in Nashville who
the same, and they hid the manifesto also with the girl in Nashville. I mean, these manifestos,
but they were stuck like from the time they were 6 years old in very advanced psychological programs. You know, the one in Nashville, she was in the Vanderbilt Mental Health Center. That's literally an MK Ultra derivative place.
Any mind control center today refers to the Tavistock Institute in England at a worldwide level.
These weren't crooks, you know, these weren't crooks' parents levels. These were real professionals, you know.
Yes.
You know, they seem more like grifters.
But aside from that, any kid today, and I explained this, as you know, in volume 11. Actually, you don't know because you haven't read it all. But there is a whole chapter.
I'm sorry.
There is a whole chapter about the use of drugs, of prescribed medicines from the 1950s, when MK Ultra was created as a response to the mind control in Russia and in Nazi Germany. They started parallelly to promote what would become later on these antidepressives that eventually became Prozac in the 1980s and so on. And these antidepressives have created a way to inflict even more damage on the youth, on the general population, because there is parents who just give them as a solution of all the problem to their kids in a very easy way, too easy. Those are very dangerous, those psychoactive compounds they use in these particular drugs. And so once you give them to your child, and he then becomes maybe a mass killer, or he becomes twisted in his head. I mean, you should never give a child this kind of substances. You should maybe have a chat with them. You should maybe, if you want. I mean, my father was a psychiatrist. He gave up on psychiatry altogether when he saw the political abuse of psychiatry. But at the same time, I saw my father also helping people when they were in trouble. But he himself refused to ever prescribe any drugs of sorts, because they are a way to simply get your child in the big pharma brainwashing scheme once you give them these substances.
Well, and they're trying to cover or mask usually what was already done by the vaccines and the awful food, and so the children really are screwed up because they've got massive heavy metal poisoning. They have brain damage from.
Listen, I describe in my book the whole serotonin theory is rubbish, and actually now,
I don't believe that
but
either.
now actually one of the most important universities in the world in London has confirmed that the serotonin level is complete rubbish. So the fact that, although proposed in the 1960s, the serotonin theory of depression became really being promoted in the 90s aggressively, and then with all the various serotonin reuptake inhibitors, and of course the infamous fluoxetine, which is Prozac, and then the idea was endorsed by the corrupt American Psychiatric Association, which is basically like saying a dependence of what used to be the MK Ultra, because once upon a time the head of the America was the head of MK Ultra. So MK Ultra doesn't exist anymore since 1973, and that's where I explain there is a lot more after that comes into the equation, because it was the CIA that right in 1973 decided to start a whole study on the mapping of the brain. And that's it. And then also you had Lieutenant Colonel Michael Aquino in 1980, who gave birth to Mind War, which became the basis for what is now cognitive warfare, which unifies psychological operations together with data centers, social networks, and so for a much more in-depth analysis of the person, and instead of just a psychological operation devised on a group or a segment of people, now you can really go into their computer and start making them appear things on the side while they are on Facebook or other things, so they can target them. I think that people need to understand that when I remember there was John Coleman's book, The Tavistock Institute of Human Relations. I don't know if you ever read this book. In 2006 it came out. And he said, in later years, and I'm quoting him, we are going to discover that all the random shootings at school, post offices, and shopping malls were not random shootings at all. And he said these evil actions were carried out by conditioned, mind-controlled subjects who were carefully sought out and put on dangerous mind-altering drugs like Prozac, AZT, and Ritalin. And this is what we're seeing today with people like the woman, the girl, a 50-year-old girl in Madison, Wisconsin.
Yeah, agree. Fantastic. Well, so we're getting up here close to 15 minutes, and I just want to make sure that we cover if there's anything else you want to talk about. I did kind of want to maybe touch back into Europe some here and jump into I'd love to hear what you think is going to go down with the Pope here, because we're dealing with the end of this Jesuit-run Biden administration, right? And we're kind of dealing with the end of the Pope, and we're dealing with the end of a lot of things, and we're of great hope for humanity right now. But what is your take of, what's the deal with the Pope and the transition coming? And I'd love to hear your take, your review on the ridiculous movie Conclave. I would imagine it was ridiculous, right? It was, they have the transsexual hermaphrodite be the new Pope, right? That's basically what they do at the end of that movie. He's not transsexual, he, she, whatever. Basically, it's a way of having a trans Pope that isn't really trans, but just was born hermaphrodite. And it also just
it will not
Afghanistan, South American.
Apparently, in the long history of the church, it will not be the first time
that there was a hermaphrodite Pope.
Yes.
Really? I'm so glad I brought this up. Tell me more.
There was some suspicions on a specific pope that was either said to be a woman or together or to have been an hermaphrodite. But this happened a long time ago, and so it kind of like transcends, I guess, what we are discussing now. But the interesting thing about what the Pope is doing for this Jubileum, you see, he's celebrating so he's opening symbolically these 5 doors to the underworld. At the same time, he has devised this sort of symbol for the Jubileum, which is not at all Christian. It's some kind of Illuminati, I don't know, whatever. Rubbish cartoon, or however you want to call it, anime, which is really, I don't know. I mean,
it's
totally
to make people childlike. It's to
anti-Christian in nature, the whole thing. But in any case, I think, like you said, this Pope was very much connected to Obama, and then of course to Joe Biden, and the attempt to subvert and transform America by letting in millions of Catholics from Central and South America to change the political landscape of America. And this happened because of the Jesuits. They pushed all these people with their NGOs in this country. So they are part of the problem and part of the subversion. And we know that very well. I don't know if there will be a change in the Vatican. There is a possibility, of course, that led by this new president, we might have a resignation by Pope Francis, who is now, as you know, already old and sick, and who is, of course, probably gonna renounce to his papacy at that point, and they will place somebody who might be more inclined to be closer to the values, the conservative values that a lot of people are searching in the Catholic Church and they can't find anymore. But we don't know that. We don't know that until next year, and until we see what's going to happen. Definitely, this Pope seems to be on his way out. We don't know if he's going to go out, as many popes dying of, between brackets, natural causes, because in the Vatican, even the natural causes can be not so natural after all.
Exactly.
Or if he's going to simply do what Ratzinger did, and so he will resign, as there is already a precedent giving the possibility for it. Having said that, you see, this Pope, on the contrary, you see, because the Pope is elected by a conclave. And what the conclave didn't show is the fact that this Pope has rigged the conclave, has nominated more and more progressive cardinals every year. So these cardinals could eventually come together in a conclave and elect somebody who is not only similar to him, but could bring further this. And I don't think, of course, it's not a trans or an hermaphrodite. It's going to be simply an African Pope. Now, there is nothing wrong about being African and becoming a Pope, but it will be for them a sign of transformation. And of course, for those who have been involved in prophesying the future of the church, there has always been this prophecy surrounding a black Pope as the last Pope to close and end up the whole church thing altogether. But we can say that really, as things are going, this Pope could even stay until the end, because he's been trying to put together this project for a one-world religion. And that is really what the church wants in the future. They don't want anymore a Christian. You see, as the Vatican has never been about religion, it's been about power. And because Europe is being now transformed by them into a more Muslim, Chrislam, and of course, whoever wants to join it, because it seems like the Pope is open to anybody who wants to come on board for his one world religion project, which I described, of course, very much in detail. In volume 7, I explain also how Freemasonry is helping out the Pope in this project. So there is an active help by the Freemasons that, along with the Jesuits, have always been kind of working together. And let's not forget that Freemasonry is very powerful and influential in South and Central America where then we have this push towards this invasion of the United States. And I think that the invasion is simply the transforming the United States that was never a Catholic country, gradually in a more Catholic country.
Interesting.
I remember there was a book I read many years ago by a guy called René Guénon. René Guénon was a guy who was a member of the Illuminati, of the Freemasons, all that. Then at one point he abandoned Christianity altogether. He went to Egypt. He married with the daughter of a head of a Sufi order, and he himself, but he's a very known intellectual, René Guénon. Steve Bannon follows René Guénon. Many people is kind of known as a traditionalist speaker.
I'm sure I would know it if I saw the name.
What happens is that he said in one of his books, there will be a big transformation in America when these migrants from South America will lead to the Catholicization of America, and that will lead to a conflict, he said. So he might have been an expert in Eastern metaphysics and all kinds of things, but he got it quite right when it comes down to this forecast of future events to do, because he wrote this a long time ago. I mean, he died in 1951, so he must have written this probably in the 40s, but he already had a clear idea of how things were developing.
Interesting. Very
because
interesting. He was probably in the societies that were developing.
Well, he had worked with the Jesuits. He had worked with the Catholics also very closely for a Catholic publication that was anti-Mason, because he went from being a Mason to being an anti-Mason in a very short time. He was born a Roman Catholic, and so he definitely had knowledge, and he worked with the Jesuits. He was...
Well, the upper echelons of the Sufis were very involved in all of it too. I mean, they were
absolutely, and I explained that in volume 10 of my confession.
Yeah, I remember that too. You did a great job.
Book. So he was, before that, he was involved with the Taoism, Hinduism, the Gnostic Church. So he definitely had a lot of knowledge about future events, and as an Illuminati will have, as somebody who is in these secret societies.
Fantastic. All right, we're going to wrap it up here, coming on an hour. But just before we go, give me just like a couple minutes on Prince William. Trump was like, I was very impressed with Prince William, right? He always says
Trump is very diplomatic.
He's great. He's great at how he does what he does. And
let's not forget that both me and Trump have the same ancestors, royal blood in Scotland.
Let's not forget it. Definitely not. Hey.
So I mean, and that Prince William, because of my grandfather was cousin to the Queen Mother, who is the great grandmother also of Prince William. So there is blood there, also from my family. Well, I would say that Prince William is sadly the ideal candidate for the office of Antichrist in the future. I always said that, but at the same time, we could always exorcise even Prince William. I mean, we have to understand that everybody can be changed.
Yes, absolutely.
However, of course, the fact that America has demonstrated a change, and this has shocked the Europeans simply because they don't have a clue of what goes on in America, because they think America is New York or Los Angeles, which is nothing to do with America. It's to do with a bunch of Democrats who are ruining America and who have taken these strongholds and transformed them in shitholes, including San Francisco. Yeah. So, I mean, for a foreigner, New York, that's how America, they have this impression of America. I mean, I saw influencers that come from Europe and report on America, go to New York, this is America. This is not America. If you want to be like Pat Metheny, this is not America. No, absolutely, this is not America. And so this distorted view of what America really is leads to all these misunderstandings in the European. Now that the communication is much more direct, and even the Europeans in real time, at least until now, most Europeans, because already you have Rumble that is banned in France, certain things that are banned in France is really the least but also other European countries. I mean, if you do a post on Facebook in Great Britain, knock, the police comes up to you.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you have posted about the immigrants. You don't like the immigrants? What's your problem with the immigrants, sir? And you communicate to us.
Let's go to jail and you'll be beaten to death by Muslim gang. Yeah.
So there is unfortunate, you see, the problem, like I describe in Volume 10 of my Confessions, Great Britain after the war needed labor, needed force for labor, for building back up an industry and a country that was destroyed by the German bombing. And they led into the country millions of Muslims from their vast Commonwealth, what used to be the British Empire. And now they have to deal with them. They have taken over the show. I was the one that a few years ago, 2018, I was in an English. 2018, I was invited to attend an English lodge, and I hold a speech there. It was like because I was a Christian. I represented the Christian Masons, the strict temple observance. They wanted to hear my take on things. Well, I shocked them, and I kind of think also, at one point they took away they said, okay. They kind of were very British, very polite about it, but they made me understand that my speech had to end, because I was very direct to them. We were in a church having this Masonic meeting in the middle of the city of London, and there was this image of Jesus behind. And I watched them all. We were all in a Masonic gear and stuff. I remember, I turned around and I said, this is the guy who really founded Freemasonry. And if you continue with this nonsense and the Muslim invasion of this country, you're going to have people like in Turkey blowing themselves up in your lodges, and you will die because of that. And they were like, shocked. And it was, and I remember it was a mixed lodge. My wife has asked me, it was a lodge with both men and women, though they were members of the regular United Lodge of England in attendance. And because my wife had asked me, we wanted to become a Freemason as an experience. In the end, she didn't really want to be a Freemason, but she asked me to become one. So I said, okay, I'm going to bring you to this lodge in London where they might be able to do that. And so we went several times. But when I did this speech, I really noticed the tension, meaning that they understood I was saying the truth, because I was being very honest. I said, London is changing, and it's changing for the worst. And I was shocked. I lived there 10 years in London. And I'm shocked about the way, all pubs transform in halal shops and stuff. And I'm saying, this is not anymore what Great Britain used to be when I grew up. I'm half English. And they were like, they were, I think they were ashamed. And I think the sense of being ashamed was so much that they, at the end, they just, they couldn't hear me too much. So they wanted to say, okay, now. So
now let's pretend again.
Let's pretend we all get along, we're all fine. But the fact that we were in a church, and the fact that I could refer to the origins of Freemasonry, because people don't know this. Nowadays, people, of course, see the Freemasonry in trees, fueled with occult elements, with esoteric elements, with this and that, open to all religions. And like I say in Volume 7, responsible for even participating with the Vatican in the construction of a one-world religion. So really responsible. But when they were born in 1717, formally as a Grand Law, it was about bringing back those Christians who had argued against each other and created a war that pushed the Puritans to come here to America, to bring them back together. So up until 1813, people don't know, only Christians were allowed in Freemasonry. And there were rights, specifically the right of Sikh temple servants, where I represented, which in the Enter Apprentice has a question. Are you Christian? If you said no, said, okay, you can't join. You can't enter the lodge, And nowadays, it's about being anti-Christian. It's about being, they welcome Satanists in the lodges. They even get people to, here in California, to take their oath from the Book of the Law of Aleister Crowley. Come on. It's just, it's insane.
It's sick. Well, it's disgusting. And, it's It's satanic. That's what it is.
It's they
satanic,
have the
it's
Louis,
dangerous.
but that's why a lot of people say, but Benjamin Franklin was a guy a little bit particular, but George Washington was a respectable guy, and like him, many other Freemasons who were involved in the foundation of the United States at the time in which Freemasonry, I repeat, was a Christian affair. And so those Freemasons are not comparable with the ones you have today. And so when the Freemasons say, but we had George Washington, we had this and that at the foundation of the United States. Yes, but they were Christians.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's a fascinating topic, and there's some, and
the separation of state and church happened because the state recognized that the church was corrupted. So there was the separation, but it was not the separation between the state and Christianity, because in God we trust is written on the $1 bill.
100%.
So
I agree. All right, I'm slowing down because it's already after an hour, and I know that we need to get going.
No worries. But thank you so much for having me on. Merry Christmas. I think this was a great Christmas message to end up the show with.
I think you're right. And you know what? We need to get that message for Trump to make sure all those exorcisms go on in the White House before he steps foot in there.
Well,
right?
Why not? Yeah, maybe you should also invite the same priest, which has probably done a great job in Mar-a-Lago, to also visit the White House after the inauguration, because I'm sure that the White House has a lot of residual evil to get rid of, and a lot of holy water to bless the whole place with. It's required liters of.
Need holy water through the sprinkler system to come down, right?
Yeah, really. Use the sprinklers for the holy water in the White House after Joe Biden leaves it, because the guy, it was a Catholic, the second Catholic president, but also a Jesuit. And a Jesuit is an anti-Christian force. 100%. It's not anything to do with Christianity. And that's why a lot of people say, but the Catholic Church is this and that. No, the Jesuits. And that's why we need to, it's a little bit like the Sabbatean Frankists and the rest of Judaism. You can't accuse the whole of Judaism. You have to be specific. Otherwise, you risk to generalize, and then you cannot be taken seriously. Totally so God bless you, guys.
God bless you. God bless you. Have Merry Christmas, and I'll see you next time. I'll see you in the new year, okay?
Absolutely. And have a great start to your year, guys. And let's hope that between here and the inauguration, all goes smoothly.
Please, God. God is good. God is being good so far, and I trust that God will do it again. So, all right. You take care.
And for all the articles, leozagami.com.
Oh, leozagami.com. Get his books, everybody.
Thank you very much.
When you jump off, I'll plug you here at the end.
Okay. That would be a great help. I think that this book, at least, is a book that makes you understand the level of control, but also brings you to the realization that you can avoid being controlled once you are aware of that control. Until we are not jeopardized by that transhumanist element. And that's where really we need to have a good chat with Elon Musk about what you want to do with this transhumanist element of yours, because that is a little bit scary.
Yeah. And, people are putting a lot of trust in him. So let's hope that he, continues to have these God shots, because it needs to be reciprocal, needs to be reciprocated. Well, thanks, Leo. Okay, and everybody go to leozagami.com, get his books. They're excellent. Go from 1 through 11. Just get the full education. You'll be amazed. Just an incredible scholar as well as an incredible thinker. So check out his work, and I'm sure we'll see each other again next year. And
next year. There is also a new book I'm starting to work in January. And it's going to probably take me 3 or 4 months, because I want to say, but it's very interesting subject, very important subject, very relevant subject.
Oh, good. I can't wait. Can't wait. Well, I'll get this one over the holidays, so then I'll be ready for your next one. And
absolutely. Thank you very much.
All right.
And you are free, TV.
You are free, everybody. We'll see you next time. Oh, that's Leo. Woo. Okay, I need just a second to say goodbye to everybody. Man, that guy is a talker, and he is an incredible mind. And I can never really lead the interviews I do with him, so I kind of just have to let him go. But it was just really fantastic to hear from him again. I want to say to everybody, Merry Christmas. I'll be back tomorrow, and we'll do news. We did have that great, incredible thing today. We did it. We shut down that Cromnibus bill. And I do believe it's a very significant thing that we were able to shut it down. That is a huge sea change. And I do believe that we'll get Johnson vacating the chair, or vacated from the chair. Who knows what devils he's having to pay, why he's doing this. But it'll be very interesting to see what happens today and tonight. And I will be back with you tomorrow to report on it all. So thanks for watching. And if you felt that this interview was not only entertaining, but informative and gave you some information that helps broaden your view and your knowledge, and you want to help out the channel, really appreciate it. There's ways to do so below. And of course, go and support Leo as well, leozagami.com. And I'll see you next time. You are free.